Trwa 8. edycja Kongresu 590 pod hasłem Przestrzenie wolności i to spotkanie polityków, naukowców, ekonomistów, ekspertów odbywa się tu w Warszawie na torze wyścigów konnych na Służewcu. Jest to też okazja do spotkania z wybitnymi postaciami, przedstawicielami międzynarodowej polityki. Takim właśnie człowiekiem i gościem Kongresu 590 niewątpliwie jest obecny gość studia Kongresu, Fogh Rasmussen, były sekretarz generalny NATO w latach 2009-2014. Hello, good afternoon. Great to see you in Warsaw.
Good afternoon.
So, first of all, I would like to ask you about the role and the position of NATO nowadays. How would you describe this position of the alliance today, just weeks before the summit in Vilnius and more than 1 year after the Russian aggression in Ukraine?
I think everybody realizes that NATO is more needed than ever. We still remember that President Macron characterized NATO as brain dead. President Trump said NATO is obsolete, but it's neither brain dead nor obsolete. It's more needed than ever. So I hope at the NATO summit in Vilnius that will be confirmed by a clear pledge to invest much more in defense.
And what is the signal to capitals such as Kiev or Tbilisi, in your opinion, when they have been standing in front of the open doors of NATO's for decades, and now Sweden and Finland is accepted in NATO in one night, we can say? What is the signal? And in your opinion, do you think that in Vilnius, Ukraine should get a kind of invitation to join NATO? Personally, what's your opinion?
My personal opinion is yes, we should invite Ukraine to join NATO already in Vilnius. We know that is not equivalent to joining NATO immediately because we have some practicalities to work out.
That's clear.
I mean, it will be the first time in the history of NATO that we allow into NATO a country at war. So we have to figure out with the Ukrainians how to define the famous Article 5, where we consider an attack on one, an attack on all. How should that be addressed in a situation where we foresee future clashes between Ukraine and Russia? But I think time has come to invite Ukraine already in Vilnius next month.
And what possible obstacles can prevent this invitation from being extended next month?
Well, NATO takes decision based on consensus. That is, all allies must agree, and
that seems to be complicated.
It seems to be complicated. Maybe there will be no consensus on inviting Ukraine in Vilnius. But I think a second best option would be to define a clear path towards NATO membership in Vilnius. Like Finland and Sweden, we could offer Ukraine a fast track towards NATO. We could decide to review the whole issue already next year in Washington, D.C., where we will have a new NATO summit. And finally, we could establish a NATO-Ukraine Council with a mandate to identify the conditions that must be met before Ukraine can join NATO. I think that would be a compromise that could satisfy both Ukraine and NATO allies.
Your term as the Secretary General of NATO was framed by Russia's attack on Georgia. It was in 2008, and the annexation of Crimea on 2014. today we know it was a kind of war prologue, if I can say. What lesson we must learn from all this, what happened in the past?
Yeah, the lesson is that we have to respond firmly and decisively and targetedly when we meet such an aggression. I think the mistake we made was to react much too mildly and hesitantly. When Putin attacked Georgia and de facto occupied Abkhazia and South Ossetia, the only thing we did was to suspend meetings in the NATO-Russia Council for a year. When he attacked and took Crimea, we introduced some sanctions, but they were not severe in any kind. And I think, seen retrospectively, Putin miscalculated our response. He thought, okay, it seems that I can take territory from neighbors practically without any cost. So he continued, and we saw the outright and full-scale invasion last year. So the lesson learned is we have to react much more determinedly when Russia attacks.
And what do you wish you knew then that you know now about Putin and his psychology, if I can say so?
Yeah, I think we have underestimated the ambitions and the brutality of Putin. And I think one of the reasons why we have miscalculated and misjudged Putin is that he has changed himself. When I first met Putin back in 2002 as the new prime minister, he was enthusiastically in favor of tighter bonds between Russia and the West. Then he changed his mind in 2006 and he started to take anti-Western decisions. Maybe Putin all the way through has been a KGB agent that managed to disguise his true mentality. And this is the reason why we misjudged him.
What is your idea about stopping the war at the moment, the Putin's regime? What can we do more than just delivering weapons?
Yeah, but I think the key to end the war quickly is to step up our delivery of weapons. We should deliver to the Ukrainians everything they need: longer-range missiles, heavy battle tanks, and eventually also fighter jets. They need that. I'm optimistic, and I think the Ukrainians can retake lost land if we give them the weapons they need. They have the will to fight. It's our duty to give them the means to fight.
Just weapons and sending soldiers? NATO and Joe Biden said they won't do it. Was it a mistake, or should we leave this issue as an open one?
I think we should improve the capability of Ukraine to defend itself by itself. So I do not foresee the deployment of NATO troops on Ukrainian soil. But we have to realize we cannot win a war by an incremental step-by-step approach. We have to surprise and overwhelm our adversary. The fact is that the long decision-making processes, our hesitation to deliver weapons in due time, has given Putin room to fortify his defenses. And all that hesitation on our part has made the Ukrainian counter-offensive much, much more difficult and expensive.
That's true. It took a long time. So what is your perspective at the moment? What scenario concerning the war in Ukraine when I know it's a difficult question, when the war will near its end?
Well, as you said, it's impossible to give an answer to that. But I know that Putin's ambition is to drag out this war forever, to make it into a frozen conflict, to destabilize Ukraine, to keep Ukraine dependent on the Kremlin. That's his strategy, of course. we should counter that by bringing this war to a quick end, and to that end we need to deliver all the weapons the Ukrainians need, and also bring Ukraine into NATO. Because at the end of the day, NATO's Article 5 is the ultimate security guarantee. I think that would deter Putin from further attacks.
How the war in Ukraine has changed the position and the role of Poland in the alliance in NATO?
I think Poland has got a much stronger position than in the past, because Poland has been a leading voice in warning against the true mentality of Russia. And I know many political leaders in Western Europe that today realize we should have listened to all the warnings from Poland and other Eastern allies. So now we have to take seriously what Polish political leaders indicate. Furthermore, Poland has taken a lead role when it comes to investment in defense. Actually, Poland is on its way to becoming a military superpower. So I think Poland will have get a much stronger role in the future.
To end our conversation, I would like to ask you about the reconstruction of Ukraine, the reconstruction plan. How do you see how it should look like, and the role of Poland also in this reconstruction as a neighbor, an important neighbor of Ukraine?
That's a very important issue. I know many people would call it premature to discuss reconstruction while a war is going on, but we should be prepared for reconstruction of Ukraine. According to the World Bank, it will cost around 400 billion euros to reconstruct Ukraine, which, on the other hand, also gives Polish business, for instance, a huge opportunity to invest in this reconstruction of your neighboring country. So I foresee not only a stronger role for Poland when it comes to security policy and within NATO, but also when it comes to reconstruction of Ukraine. So if Polish business understands how to grasp that opportunity, against this tragic background, I see a lot of opportunities, golden opportunities for Polish business.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time and for this interview.
You're welcome.
Państwa i moim gościem był Fogh Rasmussen, były sekretarz generalny NATO w latach 2009-2014. To jest studio Kongresu 590. Pozostańcie Państwo z nami.